camo pattern works best in the start woods for ground hunting. That's mainly what this is all about. It's nothing scientific here. I'm just going to show you my results, kind of give you an in-depth idea of why I think some patterns worked and some didn't. Again, this is for ground hunting mostly in start woods where I hunt. Don't have a whole lot of cover. You're dealing with hardwoods, mixed pine forests, things like that, where there's no leaves on the trees at this time of year to really hide your silhouette, hide your shape, and allow you to kind of tuck back into something, especially if you're trying to ground hunt, which is something I do pretty much exclusively. So this is just camo patterns that maybe will help the ground hunter hide themselves a little better and a little more effectively. I'm going to show you my results. So one of the interesting things that I kind of found out in all of this is, I guess, basically whitetail acuity. I was always of the impression, until recently, that deer could maybe focus on a particular object, hunter, whatever, at long distances, say beyond 100 yards. They can focus on something. That's really not the case. Their focus is basically an entire band around their eyes, 310 to 315 degrees, I think is what it is around their acuity. On the conservative side, 2060 is about what most scientists say. A lot of them go all the way up to 2100. It's 20/20 vision is supposed to be, pretty good vision. Well, theirs is on the low end. They're in mild to a moderate vision loss, basically. So once you get out past 70 or 80 yards, you're just turning into an object to them. You're not really something that they can pick out. They can pick out that movement, but you're just an object. So pattern beyond, say, 60, 70 yards, somewhere in that range, your pattern doesn't really matter because you're just a shape. So just so everybody knows, I'm testing this in different conditions. We're about 30 to 40 minutes after legal shooting light. I'm out here testing. Yes, there is a jacket hanging right there. There's one right there. So just so everybody knows, I'm not out here testing just when it's bright light out. I'm also doing it early in the morning, late in the evening. Today is kind of a cloudy day, kind of partly cloudy. So kind of got a muted sunlight this morning. So I'm just trying to pick out which colors work, which patterns work best for different conditions. That way I can kind of match my camo to that, depending on the condition I'm hunting in and the area I'm hunting in. So I'm just seeing which ones are the most versatile. So right here, I'm using an app that mimics a deer's vision. The acuity and also the color vision is represented in this little video clip. Again, this is a natural gear camo hung up with no cover. I start out at like 5 yards and I back up all the way to 80 yards away from the garment. As you can see, the further away I get, here I'm about 20 yards away, and the piece of clothing is kind of melding into that background. This also gives you a good representation, even though the entire picture or scene you're seeing is in focus. That would not be the case for a deer's vision. Their focus would be on that horizon. That's where I tried to keep the kind of garment in the middle of the frame, so it would represent the focusing ability within that band, and then backed away, keeping that garment basically in the center of the frame. So you'd have to take into account that above and below that garment, everything would kind of be out of focus. It just turns into smoke in the woods. It's a ghost. I don't know exactly, I can't explain exactly why. Again, this is designed more for duck hunters, I think. That's kind of what they're geared more to. I've had experiences with this camo and just had deer in it. He just walk right up on me. So the next few slides are just visual representations of how the deer see under different light conditions at different distances with different camos. today. What I'm doing is testing front cover, back cover, no back cover, no front cover, just to see what, which ones need what, whether back cover is important, front cover is important, or can you blend in either one. And the one thing that seems to stand out is if you have no like front cover, back cover, which I'll kind of hang this up here. And this is just in my yard, not going out in the woods and checking this a bunch of different places. This is a good representation of just stark woods. So if you're hanging out just with no front cover, no back cover, and you're kind of shaded. So everybody says get in the shade. You do that, and everything else around you kind of has light around it, you're gonna stick out like a sore thumb. So this just gives you a good representation of how the deer are seeing with that stark gray background, their visual acuity at close ranges. It gives a good idea of what these patterns kind of look like, how you'd be silhouetted, and how a lot of these patterns just turn you into like a dark figure at shorter distances. And as you get further away, you kind of meld into the background a little more. But this gives you a good idea of just how dark some of these patterns look at a really close distance. Basically to how a deer would see you if you were standing in the woods at close range. So these are the patterns that I'm using primarily in my hunting this time of year, the late season, where you have like the stark woods where you can see here there's no leaf cover, so there's nothing to cover you. And that's mainly what I was concerned with. These are the patterns that I picked up, and a lot of these are new to me. But these are the ones that I really, really trust for some reason. They're ones that I think have visually appealing to me. And there's really only one of these camo patterns that you could really use in this setting unless you have really good cover. So, again, it's once you get the thing that kind of separates good camo in this type of setting where you don't have cover from bad camo is the openness. If you'll notice, these don't have a whole lot of openness to their pattern. Even the Predator, which is a really, really good camo for this, for my testing, stood out really, really well. It still doesn't quite have that openness. Everything is kind of blocky, and once you get into these shapes that are kind of like really sharp pointed, and you get into the colors that are really close together, like these are, like you don't have a whole lot of differentiation between the colors. They just turn from one color to another. Same thing with this. This is QU. This is one of the First Light Fusion. In the Predator has the same thing. Once the colors turn from one color to another sharp, defined color. Here's another First Light. I'm not trying to pick on anybody here, but I'm just saying I like these patterns. But for the testing, they didn't really work for what I wanted to, what I was trying to kind of get out of it. When you get these colors that turn from one light color to a dark color, and there's not a big space there between them, the one thing that really stands out is that just turns you into a dark object. Here's another camo. This is a mossy oak camo, and this is one that have been particularly fond of myself. I've used it quite a bit, and it's the same thing. This is so dark. Once you get camo patterns that look like this, that have this just a lot of brown, there's not a lot of light coloration in it, way too dark. One thing I think camo manufacturers are kind of afraid to go into is that light color. And that's something that a lot of them have just shied away from, and they went dark. And by doing that, they've really limited the ability for that camo to kind of hide itself. So once it transitions from light to a little bit darker shade, if that transition is more gradual instead of this quick, like just jumping from one color to the other, if that melds into a lighter color, that breaks you up better, even in the shade and even in cloudy situations. So when you're worried about the patterns and you're seeing these quick transitions from light color to dark color, those are going, that dark is so overwhelming that it basically turns the lighter color into the same color as it. So it just turns it into a brown mass, which turns into a gray mass to a deer. So if you're up close, and you'll see this in the pictures, if you're within that 60, 70 yard range with this pattern on, if you don't have cover, you look just like a dark mass. So this is natural gear. Camo. It's been around for a long, long time. And if you notice, see, it has very subtle changes within the pattern. It has these kind of bronzy looking points in it, but it's really light, and it has really, like I said, very subtle, really subtle changes within the pattern. It's not something that's sharp contrast, and it's not something that looks, you know, very dense and very closed off. It's very consistent across the entire camo pattern, but it's got just enough of the dark in there to kind of, you know, change that visual appearance of it. And at shorter distances, inside of 60 yards, if you're dealing with stark woods, like, you know, kind of the examples I've shown, this pattern by far and away worked the best. It was easily the most effective camo pattern that I tested at basically making you disappear at closer range. My dog is out here helping us today, just testing how it looks on the leaf litter. So I'm laying them all out here. Say hey, Bambi. So here's another one, Strata. A lot of people talk about it. It's a redhead brand. It's easily accessible. Front cover, back cover, works great. If you have a evergreen, like I've been talking about, evergreen, holly, privet, something that's gonna hold green, you just have back cover with it, it'll work good. So this is Numa. Had a lot of people ask about this, and this is one of those. This is a puffy, and Numa's known for the puffies. They're really good at it. This is one of those where the color, the pattern is great, but the material it's put on isn't. So I think if this, and I have a piece, just a thin jacket, it's really hard to tell. It's like a really super thin, but it hanging out here blends in. But you get the jacket with this nylon polyester finish and the DWR and all that coated on it, and it's shiny. And so even when I'm looking at it from a distance, it shows up. Even though it's kind of concealed, it's just got that shininess to it. So pattern is great, and if you're in an evergreen type of woodland terrain habitat or whatever, if you're in like an evergreen, holly, privet, you know, any kind of evergreen, hemlock, spruce, you know, anything like that, white pine, things like that, this is going to work really well. But if you're in sunlight, it's gonna glow if you're wearing this puffy. So this is a super popular puffy for them and for a lot of hunters. Super warm, love it, but it does not work if you're dealing with a lot of sunlight. Once the sun's down, this kind of does a lot better. So here they all are. These are the ones that I have tested so far. I've done more, but a lot of them didn't make it to this round, so they were eliminated before that. But these right here, and I included the mossy oak, old school mossy oak, but the mossy oak versions of this, I included it here because it is something everybody wanted me to test, so I included it, but it wouldn't have made the grade either. But these are the ones that are on this first round that made the grade. There's about 7 or 8 that didn't. So anyway, guys, just to wrap this up, I would say this pattern right here is your winner as far as like overall being able to conceal you on this first round of what I've done. It's this natural gear, just the OG natural gear. So say in second place, and it's pretty close, but it's still not quite there, would be the First Light Fusion. This pattern is so close, and I'm wearing it right now, it's so close to being an unbelievable pattern and excelling at this. but it's still just too dense. So it just won't break you up without out some sort of cover. So third place, I would say, is going to be your Predator. You know, just as far as being able to break your silhouette up without needing cover. So that's where I would give First Light a little mark down, and Predator a little mark up, is in that ability to hide your silhouette without cover. Predator excels a little more than the First Light does, but the First Light is just hidden a lot better when you have front cover. So a little bit of front cover with First Light, and you can blend in quicker. If I had to go to a couple of honorable mentions, the QU. But again, if you don't have any cover, it's not going to be there, you know, for you. And another honorable mention, the old red plaid, okay, does pretty poorly when it comes to having no cover. Good. Back cover, good. Mix of both and you're really good. So unsung hero of the day is your red plaid. So old school boys up in the Northeast, this one's for you. So in closing, to kind of wrap everything up, what I will say is beyond 70 yards, camo pattern really doesn't mean anything. You could be wearing whatever camo pattern. And you're going to be, unless you're moving, they're probably not going to see you. Now, that's not to say you won't get picked off by them outside of that range. Even if you're still, because you are a shape that they're not used to seeing in their environment. So I think that's where it confuses a lot of people. Hey, I got busted by this. How did it happen? How did this happen? Well, outside of 70 yards, you're just a shape on a 2D, basically picture frame to them. And a lot of times, the bigger bucks, they're not going to give you the benefit of a doubt. So it's just a cautionary tale. Outside of 70 yards, doesn't matter what camo pattern you are, but if you're moving, you're going to be seen. And even if you're not moving, if you're out of place to them, they blow at you, spook, things like this, and that confirms that sight bias. Hey, something's out of place. There's a shape there. I can't tell what it is because I can't make out what that is. I'll blow at it, or I'm going to stomp at it, or I'm going to snort at it, or I'm going to do this, or I'm going to, do whatever to alert everything around it. And I think this happens a lot more with does, because does come in usually not just one single doe. It's usually 3 or 4. So you've got 3 or 4 eyes that are in tune to that same type of thought pattern that, hey, there's something out there. I just see a shape that's out of place. It only takes one of them to do it, and it alerts everything else, and it's a downhill process from that point. Whereas with a mature buck, he's not going to probably give you the benefit of a doubt. Hey, I come here, I've been here every day of my life, or every other day of my life, I've come through here, and there's something out of place in my environment. And you probably never knew it, and you think, well, I got sight busted. It's probably just a conscious something's different, So I think that's just how that goes. So hope this helps. Again, I'm going to be doing Sitka all to themselves, a video all to them with just a couple other patterns thrown in there that I think might, work. But look for that coming up as soon as I get some more. Osseo is another one. Osseo and Sitka, I'm going to do kind of on their own with some others. So, and then I'll maybe throw in some of these that were good into that one, and we'll do wrap it up at the end and see exactly which one I think's the best of the best. So, but I appreciate y'all watching. This is the November Warrior Outdoors. Check us out. Hit that like, subscribe button rather, for our channel, and check out our Facebook page and the Grounded Hunter. This is what this is all based on, is how to be a better grounded hunter, how to hunt off the ground. So I appreciate y'all taking the time out to watch this, and hopefully you got something from it. And good hunting out there, and good luck, and I'll see y'all in turkey season.